You've probably noticed when you automatically say yes, even though every part of you wants to say no. You're exhausted from prioritizing everyone else's needs over your own. You feel guilty even thinking about setting a boundary. Most people don't realize what's actually driving that constant people-pleasing pattern. Here's where it gets important. People-pleasing isn't kindness. Psychologically, it's a defense mechanism. Research from attachment theory shows that chronic people-pleasing develops as a trauma response to early environments where your needs weren't safe to express. When children learn that their emotional safety depends on managing other people's feelings, they develop hypervigilance around others' needs and suppress their own. This creates a psychological pattern that repeats. Dr. Pete Walker's work on complex PTSD identifies people-pleasing as one of 4 core trauma responses, alongside fight, flight, and freeze. The person learned early that their value came from being useful, agreeable, and low maintenance. Psychologically speaking, what's actually happening is you're protecting yourself from the threat of rejection, abandonment, or conflict by becoming indispensable. The mechanism works like this. Your nervous system registers potential disapproval as danger. That activates the people-pleasing response automatically before you even consciously decide. You say yes, you over-accommodate, you minimize your needs. This gives you a temporary psychological payoff, relief from the anxiety of possible rejection. Your brain interprets cooperation as safety. But dig deeper psychologically and the cost becomes clear. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology reveals that chronic self-silencing predicts decreased relationship satisfaction and increased depression. The core issue underneath all of this is that people-pleasing doesn't actually create the safety or connection it promises. Instead, it creates resentment. Here's what most people don't understand. When you constantly prioritize others' comfort over your own boundaries, you're not building authentic relationships. You're building relationships where people know a version of you that doesn't actually exist. The false self you present, always agreeable, never needing anything, perpetually accommodating, becomes your identity. Meanwhile, your real needs, feelings, and limits get buried deeper. The psychology behind this is rooted in what psychologists call emotional invalidation. When your early environment taught you that your feelings were inconvenient, burdensome, or wrong, you learn to disconnect from your internal experience. You stop trusting your own needs as legitimate. Dr. Jonas Webb's research on emotional neglect shows this creates adults who genuinely don't know what they want because they were never allowed to want anything. And this is why it damages relationships. The person on the receiving end of constant people-pleasing never gets to know the real you. They can't see your limits because you hide them. They can't meet your needs because you never express them. Eventually you burn out. The resentment builds. What started as protection becomes a prison where you're trapped maintaining a version of yourself that's exhausting to perform. What therapists know about this is that the anger buried under people-pleasing is significant. You're not just frustrated about saying yes too much. You're angry that your needs were never prioritized. You're angry that expressing yourself felt unsafe. That anger has nowhere to go, so it turns inward as self-criticism or outward as passive aggression. The real reason this happens is because the wound beneath people-pleasing is the belief that you're not valuable as you are. Your worth depends on what you provide, how useful you are, how little space you take up. And that's the psychological distortion at play, a fundamental misunderstanding of your inherent value that no amount of self-sacrifice will ever heal. Recognizing people-pleasing as protection, not kindness, changes everything. Once you see you're defending against an old wound rather than being generous, you can start questioning whose voice is really speaking when you automatically say yes. That awareness is the first step toward boundaries. Because you're not being selfish, you're finally being safe enough to be real.